Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 46. Here Comes the Shadow. Don't trust appearances easily. It's Aunt Agnes. Wanda saw the woman in the picture clearly, her beautiful eyes widened and she exclaimed. You know her. Nick Fury looked at the woman in the picture and asked. Well, she is the aunt of one of Lee's tenants. We met today. I didn't expect her to have such a side. Wanda stared at the screen, her pretty face full of disbelief. She is a very kind woman and treats me very well. Wanda, there are no strangers in the world who will treat you well for no reason. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Wanda frowned slightly and fell silent. She carefully recalled that when she got along with Agnes, she didn't find anything abnormal, and the other party was very warm and friendly to her. Rumble. Just then, a deafening thunderclap resounded through the sky, and the blue sky over the Thames suddenly became dark. Here they come. Nick Fury heard the movement, got up and went to the window to look. Is it the elements? Wanda also felt that the air gradually became oppressive. It's really a crowd of elements. Hill Agent pushed the door in, and the tablet in his hand displayed the current data. All are consistent with the data of the previous elements. It's just that the data of the elements detected now is a huge combination, and the energy contained in it is dozens of times more than any element before. At the moment, outside the window, a black line on the horizon swept towards this side at a speed visible to the naked eye, and everything it went was stained black. Boom. In just a few seconds, the entire sky over the Thames River was completely shrouded in black clouds, and under the turbulent and raging winds, a sharp black vortex formed. It looks like a ferocious Shira mask. The river is also raging under the strong wind, rolling up the torrential waves. Above the river, the London Bridge spanning the two banks swayed violently like a ship swaying in a storm. Boom. Next second, a mass of huge monsters suddenly gathered on the river surface. The whole body was composed of storms, and the turbid incarnate body sometimes flashed fire, and sometimes flashed blue light. When it appeared, the burst of energy washed over the surroundings, overturned countless vehicles, and knocked down all the passers-by who had no time to dodge on the road. Run, everyone, run, the driver is gone. Bewitched, it's these things again. Everyone get out of the car. In a sightseeing car on London Bridge, Mr. Linton, Peter's teacher, looked at the huge monster in the distance. His face was pale and he didn't care about other things. The other black teacher was turning pale with fright. He was a materialist before he came on vacation. But now he felt that the whole class was cursed. Wherever you go, you will encounter disaster. The gift crab, although it's fake, it's a bit too realistic. Ned followed him out of the car, muttering, Don't worry, it's all fake. MJ Michelle comforted himself. Boom, just finished. The street lamps on the bridge collapsed. I'm kind of sure he's fake after all. Ned was still in a state of shock, and looked a little dizzy with fright. If I had walked a few more steps just now, I'm afraid I would have been smashed into meat sauce. Stop talking nonsense, the children quickly follow me and get out of here. Mr. K. Linton wiped his sweat, ran in the front and shouted. Everyone didn't dare to delay and ran out of the bridge, and the bridge at the foot of it at the moment was swaying in the strong wind, as if it might collapse at any time. At the same time, in the corridor between the buildings not far away. That's right, that's it. This is an Avenger-level disaster. The more people die and the more serious the casualties, the more people will remember me. The mysterious guest Quentin stood in the glass corridor, overlooking the tragedy on the Thames. Numerous objects were rolled up, and people fled in terror. Seeing this, the corners of his mouth cracked into a satisfied smile, and his emotions gradually became excited. Mum Wilhelm, you can let me appear on stage. No problem. On the other end, Wilhelm sighed deeply and mobilized the drone. Then a green light appeared in the deep space above the heads of the huge group of elements, and then the green figure swooped down, fearlessly killing the behemoth. Endless energy rays suddenly spewed out from his fists, constantly bombarding the muddy bodies of the elements. I want to avenge my family and my world. Above the sky, the mysterious guest Yukong flight blasted out rays angrily. The realistic and terrifying rays full of power flashed with dazzling green light every time. Reflected on the passers-by who fled at the scene. MJ, it's the mystery guest. Ned looked at the green figure, stopped and reminded. It's indeed him. A good man finally came. Let's stop being dumbfounded and get out of here quickly. Teacher K. Linton saw this and pulled him to continue running. As a teacher, he doesn't want his students to have accidents. The office on the top floor of the tower. I'll help him. Wanda looked at the miserable situation over there, turned around and walked out the door. Dee, wait. At this moment, Nick Fury's phone rang again, and he looked down and said in a deep voice, "It's Happy." As he spoke, he pressed the answer button. Immediately, Harpy's incoherent voice came from the other end of the phone. "Fury, do you still remember that time? Tony said before that there was a man surfing in the sea, but in fact he was not in the sea. What the hell are you trying to say? Hear this passage." Nick Fury frowned suddenly, his expression became unclear. "I mean, don't trust appearances so easily," Harpy said hastily. "Happy, don't make this call in the future, I'm busy." Finished. Nick Fury made the phone call decisively, glanced at Wanda and Hill, and shook his head helplessly. "I got it right." Beside, Wanda heard the conversation between the two of them clearly just now, and a faint scarlet light glowed in her eyes. "That's right, don't trust appearances easily." Nick Fury nodded forcefully. He didn't want to admit it, but it was true. The dignified world super agent, as the most golden person on Earth, was tricked by a little-known little guy. If Lizzie can laugh at us all day here, after working so hard for so long, the result is all fake. Wanda's expression became increasingly angry, the scarlet light in her pupils became brighter, and her tone was cold. "Let me deal with this guy who wasted my time." "Wanda, wait a minute." Nick Fury stopped her again, then pointed to the horizon. "That's the shadow." Wanda narrowed her eyes slightly and saw clearly for a moment. Two figures from the sky were flying towards this side at high speed, and when one of them was approaching the London Bridge, it suddenly kicked the figure in front of it. Next second, the figure fell straight towards the London Bridge due to inertia, piercing through the middle of the bridge like an anti-aircraft gun. The ruined bridge collapsed, and countless vehicles sank into the bottom of the sea together. Chapter 47. Boom. Under the influence of the elements, the London Bridge had already become devastated. Now, after being violently impacted, the middle part of the bridge collapsed. Countless broken stones fell to the bottom of the river, and Agatha also fell together due to inertia, causing a huge splash. Not far away, the turbid bodies of the elemental crowd composed of strong winds suddenly flickered, and the black clouds that covered the sky and the sun disappeared for a short time, and then recovered instantly. "Wilhelm, what's going on?" In the promenade, the mysterious man looked out the window, and his angle of view was just right enough to see the collapse of the London Bridge. "Naturally, I also noticed that there was a problem with the drone formation. As a result, the projected images of the elements become flickering." "Quentin, it's the shadows." Quentin was stunned by Wilhelm's words in his ear, and he asked back, "Are you sure? Why didn't you tell me before, but now tell me?" "Sorry, Edith didn't intercept the message before." "Shut up. If something happens to me, everything we've done will be over, and now the control of the drone is all over to me." Quentin roared with a haze on his face, and dispatched the control of the drone. "Edith, lock the shadow, lock Nick Fury and Scarlet Witch, wait for my order, and destroy them immediately." "Yes, sir." After letting the drones lock on the targets separately, the elements returned to normal. "Damn it." Quentin's eyes were full of viciousness. He called out the camera angle of the drone responsible for surveillance, and sure enough a familiar figure appeared in the camera. It was the black shadow that destroyed his plan earlier. At the moment, over the dilapidated London Bridge, black clouds and lightning flashed across the top. "Not dead yet." High in the sky, Lizzie's eyes exposed under the mask revealed both surprise and coldness. "But it's probably disabled." He looked down at the turbulent river below, and could feel the breath of the old witch still there. "It's just that it looks extremely weak, and it may die at any time." "Hey Ying, why are you here?" Just as he was about to go down and finish off Agatha, a familiar voice came from behind. Don't look at the deliberately low and magnetic voice. Except for the actor Mysterio, no one will deliberately use a strong accent. "Guys, go away, superhero drama is not for you." Lizzie didn't bother to pay attention to him, and swooped down. On the other side, when Quentin heard this in the corridor, his face turned blue with anger. He pressed the microphone and gritted his teeth. "What are you talking about? Too much nonsense." Lizzie turned his head and saw the image of the mysterious guest following him. He grabbed the air with his bare hands, and a drone emerged and was firmly grasped in his hand. Next second, boom, he squeezed it violently with a little force, and then said in a cold tone, "Quentin, I'll give you a few minutes to run first, you'd better hurry up, it will be your turn later." In the corridor between buildings in the distance. Boom, Quentin raised his head, just looking at the figure on the bridge, and suddenly felt a chill rushing from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. At the moment, he knew that he had already been exposed. And the other party didn't expose it, it was just disdain. Or, the other party has always used him as a pawn, using his means to plan to become famous. Oh, that's how it is. Quentin's face became more and more gloomy, and these words almost gnashed his teeth. He knew in his heart that it was meaningless to do anything now, and there was no need to continue the scene of the final battle. Because the opponent is a real magician, unless he can kill Sombra. A thought came to his mind, and he said almost submissively, "Edith, eliminate the target shadow." Receive, whoosh, Thames. The violent wind created by the drone in the surrounding phantom still raging on the river surface, setting off torrential waves and churning, constantly stirring up the wreckage that fell into the water. Cough, cough, cough. Among the sinking debris, Agatha used her last bit of strength to surface. There was no trace of blood on her face now. In this contest with the young junior, she has no power to fight back, and there is no room for counterattack. Not long after she surfaced, an invisible hand grabbed her neck. In the next second, the big hand suddenly lifted it up in front of the young Oriental man. Lizzie's eyes were filled with amazement, and he looked at Agatha, who was already covered in injuries. "Your life is really tough, no wonder you can live for centuries." Cough, cough, cough. "Lee, you will regret it," Agatha replied weakly. "Kill the person who deserves to be killed, and you will never regret it." While Lizzie was talking, there was the sound of an engine behind him, accompanied by the sound of machinery turning. Caw, caw, caw. Next second, with the flames soaring into the sky, a dense hail of bullets shot towards Lizzie's position. If you look from a distance, you can see a group of drones covering the sky, and all the muzzles covering the sky are pointing towards the place below. Figure. The strong fire light caused by the muzzle almost instantly overwhelms the dimness created by the image. Completely submerge the figure in the sky. The citizens and tourists hiding in the building houses witness the drones appearing out of thin air, shooting the shadows mercilessly, with fear on their faces. Gift Crab, where's Peter? The shadows have already arrived. Under the firepower of Mysterio, can he stand it? Ned hid in the museum, witnessed all this, and spoke incoherently. "I don't know, but this kind of firepower can't even catch a tank." MJ Michelle next to her swallowed. She had survived so many times, her face was pale, and she was still in shock for a long time. At the same time, in the glass corridor. "Sombra, don't blame me, people need a hero worth remembering." Quentin looked at the figure submerged in the flames, with an extremely evil smile on his lips. Now there is only one thing on his mind, killing Sombra. Get everything back on track, and then he will still be the superhero that everyone is looking forward to. The world will always remember Mysterio, he is the real superhero. However, the next second, the scene outside the window made Quentin's expression suddenly stiff. On the bridge, the black shadow was still in the air, but the bullets fired by the drone seemed to be blocked, and all of them were suspended in the air. And the hundreds of drones also stopped moving forward, and clusters of scarlet light wrapped around the fuselage. Signal sources are isolated so that they are separated from the host. And the real culprit who caused all of this, at the moment, was standing on the defective bridge, spreading his arms and fingertips emitting endless scarlet light, interweaving into a net to envelop hundreds of drones. Then the scarlet net suddenly tightened, crushing the drone abruptly. Boom! Under the tremendous pressure, the drones were like bombs, bursting one after another, emitting endless sparks to disperse. Damn it, it's Scarlet Witch. Quentin noticed the beautiful figure and punched the wall angrily. At this time, Wilhelm's reminder sounded in his ears, "Quentin, leave first, we can't deal with them." Boom! At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and crashed into the glass wall from the side. It was the late Peter Parker, who had arrived before, but when he was about to jump off the plane, he saw that the London Bridge was destroyed. Happy drove the plane around for safety, before little Spider-Man found a chance to jump out. And found the location of the mysterious guest. Little Spider-Man looked angry and strode towards Quentin. Sorry sir, you can't leave today. Peter, you came just in time. Seeing him appear, Quentin didn't feel scared, but smiled instead. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. The other side, over London Bridge. Endless gunpowder smoke filled the air, and bullet casings were scattered all over the place. As far as the eye can see, there are fragments of drones everywhere, and at the moment cannot be reorganized due to the lack of more than 100 drones. The black cloud that covered the Thames River has long since disappeared. The violent wind also stopped. Quentin is really courting death. Lizzie looked at the wreckage of shell casings all over the place. His face under the mask was covered with haze. Although these could not harm him, no one wanted to be provoked. Wanda, however, when he saw the familiar figure at Chowtu, his eyes suddenly softened a lot, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curved. Lee, I told you that I will make you regret it. If Wanda knows that you are approaching her for origin magic power, what will she think? Agatha, who was caught in her hands and was dying, said in a deep voice. You think I'm doing it for origin magic power? Lizzie sneered. Lee, no one will care if you are really for origin magic power. Agatha laughed. Deceit is often the deadliest thing, and you will regret everything you have done. Tongue dry, Lizzie stopped talking nonsense, tightened his wrists, and felt the sound of bones breaking in his palms. Agatha without defensive runes is just an ordinary person. Then a reminder sounded. Open black lens bracket ding. The host crisis has been resolved. The current number of known people, 0. After he was sure that the person was dead, he let go and threw it away. Boom. Agatha's body fell to the ground. I don't know if it was an illusion. She landed on her back, facing the sky with her eyes wide open and full of fear of death, staring straight at Lizzie. The atmosphere is particularly eerie. Death is not a pity. Lizzie didn't care to look away, took a deep breath, and was about to say hello to his witch. But the next second, whoosh, he felt a fragrance rushing from behind him, and then a pair of hands glowing scarlet light stretched out like ghosts, and the white and greasy hands grabbed onto his mask. Lizzie was slightly taken aback. It was Wanda's hand. Chapter 48. Over the broken London Bridge. At the moment Lizzie floated behind a scarlet shadow, a pair of beautiful eyes glowing with a strange red light, and a beautiful face revealing a cold charm. Her greasy white hand was already on Lizzie's mask. Followed by a tug. However, the mask did not move at all, and the power of runes glowed on it, making it impossible for people to move even half a cent. Whoosh. Next second, Lizzie in front of him turned into a ball of black aura, floated a few meters away, and then condensed into a human form again, and said in a teasing tone, Scarlet Witch, it's very impolite to steal other people's masks secretly. Who the hell are you? Why did you kill Agnes? Wanda's eyes were icy cold. She didn't choose to do it directly. It was because she had a hunch that the reason why Agnes approached her might be for some purpose. What Nick Fury said earlier reminded her that no stranger would be nice to someone for no reason, recalling the time when she was with Agnes. The other party seemed to be paying attention to his movements everywhere, especially when he thought of meeting her in Germany today. Originally nothing, but combined with the current situation. There is clearly something wrong with all of this. You mean her? Her name is not Agnes. Agatha Nix is her real name. Lizzie was taken aback for a moment. He didn't expect the witch to ask such a question. He thought the witch would do it directly. After all, the witch had a good impression of Agatha and thought the old witch was a friendly neighbor. But that's good, otherwise it would appear that his witch is easy to deceive. How do I know if you're lying? Wanda said slowly. I think you know how to prove it. After speaking, Lizzie looked at her with a smile without saying a word. Origin magic power has the attribute of mind, which can capture some thoughts left by the decedent during his lifetime. But before that, he had already cleared Agatha's memory about himself, so he didn't have to worry about being discovered by Wanda. Chaos force, Wanda muttered to herself. She did have a way to prove the truth, thinking that she fell to the ground, looking at the dead body with wide-eyed eyes on the ground. After hesitation for a while, she stretched out her hand to close Agatha's eyes, her fingertips emitted scarlet light, and kept searching for the soul of the corpse owner. For a moment, Wanda's eyes dimmed. Obviously she already knew the answer. Are you okay? Lizzie was sensitive to the witch's mood swings, and asked a bit distressed. It's okay, thank you Sombra. Wanda said it was fine, but felt wronged in her heart. The so-called good neighbors, kindness and friendliness are all for the purpose of capturing the origin magic power in one's body. Even if you are prepared in your heart, it is a lie to say that you are not sad when you learn the truth. Nobody wants to be lied to. No thanks. Lizzie knows that Wanda must be very sad, but she never confides in others. Always looked nonchalant. But looking at the depressed Wanda, he made a mistake, and Agatha can make a witch so sad. Then what should he do in the future? How will he explain his identity and strength? Hi-ying, the commotion you caused is really big. People from the World Security Council have already blown up my phone. It was Nick Fury. He had just come down from the tower. He was still panting, his face was full of displeasure. Because Sombra fought all the way from Germany to London. The Security Council was all over the place, and they called every now and then to urge them. What they meant was not to let the shadows destroy London. I thought they wouldn't be looking for S.H.I.E.L.D. to do things with the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Seeing him coming, Lizzie joked. What? Come on, the Heavenly Sword Bureau is just a baby in front of us. As long as it is still on the earth, S.H.I.E.L.D. will never be replaced. When Nick Fury heard this, his face darkened a lot. As soon as he came, he was poked at the pain point. Hi-ying was the same as Lizzie. I don't know if it was intentional or not. Then he noticed Agatha's body on the ground, and couldn't help complaining. In this day and age, you really can't believe appearances. Yeah, I didn't expect that the dignified S.H.I.E.L.D. leader would be tricked by an unknown person. Backquote. Lizzie kicked the drone and just landed on Nick Fury's feet. Actually, you already knew he was a fake, right? Nick Fury wasn't angry. After all, it was a fact that he was being tricked. But he thought of Sombra's previous actions, and it was obvious that he had already known about the mysterious guest situation. I've always seen the details. Just as Lizzie was halfway through speaking, he saw Wanda, who had been silent beside him, with a strange red light in his pupils, looking at him quietly. As if to say that you wasted my time with my boyfriend. Lizzie caught the witch's gaze and quickly changed his words. Actually, I just found out not too long ago. He didn't want to fight with the witch here. It would be bad if he inadvertently injured the witch. Fury, where's Spider-Man? Wanda was too tired to ask any more questions. She turned her eyes away and looked around. Isn't he already here? Boom. At this time, a figure in the distance swung over vigorously and landed not far away. He took off his headgear vigorously, revealing a face full of scars, panting tiredly, and limping over. I am here. I may have done something bad. Peter's mood was very unstable. He waved his hands incoherently. What did you do again? Nick Fury wondered. I did nothing but Quentin Baker and he died. Peter Parker took a deep breath and said slowly, he was accidentally injured by a drone and bled profusely. Peter, that's not your fault. Nick Fury heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words, thinking it was a big deal. Mysterious guest's death is at most an early relief. If it is handed over to a super agent, he will not die so easily. Besides, his death is not your fault, everything is what he deserved. Lizzie stepped forward and patted Peter's shoulder meaningfully, and the face under the mask frowned slightly. It seems that his appearance did not prevent the final battle between little Spider-Man and Mysterio. You must know that this decisive battle directly led to the occurrence of the incident of the three insects in the same frame. Because Quentin Baker used the final decisive battle with little Spider-Man to fake the video of Peter Parker shooting Mysterio to death because of envy. As a result, Peter Parker's identity was exposed, and he was spurned by countless people. Life was completely disrupted. In desperation, Peter Parker had no choice but to find Doctor Strange, trying to make the world forget about him, and finally caused chaos in the multi-universe. Peter Parker from the other two universes came to the 199,999 universe by chance. But Quentin and I should be friends. Peter Parker lost his way. I understand your feelings, but you are a superhero. There are still many such things to go through in the future. You have to learn to adapt to growth, and you can't be easily defeated. Lizzie knew that there was a high probability that the three bugs would be in the same frame and could not be avoided, so he could only enlighten little Spider-Man so as to prevent the young people from thinking wildly and making things worse. He remembered that little Spider-Man was obviously influenced by the mysterious guest when he was in the same frame as the three insects. Sombra, thank you. After listening, Peter nodded, feeling much better. He couldn't be beaten easily. Mr. Stark handed the glasses to himself, having said that a crown bears its weight. He can't be easily defeated, not to mention that Quentin has been lying to himself from beginning to end. Are you good at comforting people? In the back, Wanda, who had been silent all the time, looked at the figure of the black figure comforting Peter, and always felt a little familiar, which reminded her of Lizzie. This is all chicken soup from seniors. Lizzie heard the witch's words, turned to meet her gaze, and was taken aback. Why do I always feel that the witch sees something? It seems that he has to leave quickly, and if he stays for a long time, there may be real problems. Thinking about it, he glanced at the horizon where Leong had already sunk into the horizon, and found an excuse to slip away. Since the matter is over, everyone has a chance to see you again. Hey, Sombra, what I said before. Seeing that he was leaving, Nick Fury hurried over and wanted to mention joining S.H.I.E.L.D. However, Lizzie didn't give it a chance at all, snapped his fingers, and a black vortex formed behind him, swallowing his body completely in the blink of an eye. Disappeared in place in an instant. Mare fuck, there are more and more freaks on the earth now. Nick Fury's face turned black when he saw this. He really didn't give himself this super agent face. Mr. Fury, Happy is still waiting for me, I'll go back first. Peter Parker saw that it was getting late, and he didn't wait for Nick Fury to answer. He had already put on the hood, stretched out his hand and shot the cobweb, jumped up on the spot, swinging on the swing and flying towards the bridge. Okay, another one. Nick Fury was speechless, as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. himself was completely ignored. Fury, I'm going back to Germany. Wanda saw that everyone was gone, and it was still early, so she rushed back to Germany and could arrive at 8 p.m. at the most, so she could still have dinner with Lizzie. Faced with this request, Nick Fury did not refuse. He knew that this mission was completely a personal mistake and wasted too much time. Don't talk about superiors, colleagues are probably watching jokes. Not for a while. Quinjet flew in to pick up Wanda, but Nick Fury didn't get on the plane, he had other things to attend to. He and Hill got into the car and left London. In the car. Terry, did you tell him? In the passenger seat, Hill agent looked at Nick Fury who was driving, and shook his head angrily. Next second, a surprising scene appeared, and I saw that Hill's appearance changed unexpectedly, turning into a Skrull with green skin like a lizard. No need, this matter has been settled. At this time, Nick Fury in the driver's seat also turned into a Skrull. It's the same as Lizzie thought. Now Nick Fury and Hill on Earth are both shape-shifted by Skrulls. You have to tell him. The female Skrull was speechless. Okay, can you blame me for this? Those data, images, destructive power, acting skills, and how realistic the costume is, I don't even have the face to say that I have shape-shifting ability. With embarrassment on his face, Terry yelled and picked up his mobile phone to make a call, which showed Nick Fury's famous minister. International Hotel, Berlin, Germany. Click. The door opens. Lee, are you there? Full of expectation, Wanda pushed the door open and entered the cold environment of the room, which made her frown slightly. Although it was confirmed at Hill before coming here that Lizzie hadn't gone out since this afternoon, but the overly cold atmosphere always made people feel uncomfortable. Plum, she called out again, but still no one answered. When I entered the room, I found that the room was empty. The quilt on the bed was placed neatly, the heating was turned off, and the autumn air filled the space. Not here. Wanda touched the TV, it was extremely cold, and she felt a little lost. Boom. Kai, witch, is that you? I'm playing CS in the study. The door of the study at the other end opened, and She leaned out halfway to look into the room. In fact, he just arrived, and when he came back, he saw that the house was too cold to turn on the heating, and he didn't think there was enough time, so he went back to the study and pretended to be playing games. Lee, I thought you weren't here. Wanda's heart warmed when she heard the familiar voice, and she ran over excitedly to hug Lizzie. What's wrong? Lizzie stroked her back and wondered. Aunt Agnes is a liar. Wanda recounted the matter aggrievedly, her brows were full of sadness. Obviously, what happened to Agatha was really heartbreaking. After all, the friends who thought they were sincere to each other turned out to get their origin magic power. See yourself as a tool from beginning to end. It's okay, it's all over. Lizzie looked at the witch in his arms, and didn't know what to say for a moment. After all, he himself was a liar, so it wasn't much better. He sighed, and said softly, I made a reservation at the restaurant. Do you want to go out for a meal together? We will go back to Westview Town tomorrow. If you don't try German food, you will be wrong. Pass. Quote. Wanda rubbed her stomach and gurgled. Hotels near Central Park. In the past, the number of people in this restaurant was not the highest at 8 o'clock, but today it is different. In particular, many people are scrambling to reserve a seat by the window. The reason is simple. Good. Because the location of the hotel just happens to be able to see the majestic mountain peak standing in the Central Park, the mountain peak soaring into the sky, standing in the middle of the bustling city. It looks extremely fantastic. To be precise, the mountain has replaced Central Park. Lee, why did you pick this place? Wanda is leaning against the window, looking up at the entrance of Fat Xing's tomb. I didn't expect Central Park to turn out like this either. Lee Z swears, he really doesn't know. The location of the hotel has been booked in the morning. I originally wanted to sit in this location and enjoy the beautiful scenery of the Central Park. He ended up destroying Central Park by accident this afternoon. Actually, that's pretty good. It's the first time I've seen such a high mountain. Wanda propped her white chin with one hand, admiring the majestic mountain peak, which seemed to be made by a black shadow. Quote. Well, that's what I read on the news. Lee Z was slightly stunned and nodded, then asked casually, what do you think of Sombra? Why do you ask? Wanda is puzzled. I see that many people admire him and think that Sombra will become a qualified superhero. Lee Z said unhurriedly. He was curious what the witch thought of his other image. I don't know him well. But he exposed Agatha today, otherwise I will always be kept in the dark. Speaking of which, Wanda has pure eyes like a lake of clean water, revealing melancholy. Lee Z, who was sitting across from her, saw the hesitation. Sure enough, deception hit the witch hard, and anyone would be hit hard. He looked at Wanda's hesitation for a while, and said in a deep voice, there is something I want to tell you. What's up, Wanda? Actually Chapter 49. What do you want to say? At night, the hotel lights are slightly orange, as if covered with a layer of tulle. It shines on Wanda's face, and she looks at Lee Z with beautiful eyes like a lake of clean water. Actually, Lee Z's heart softened when he met the witch's clear eyes. The eyes of the witch are as sweet as she is. After what happened to Agatha, the witch looks extremely clear and cherished, especially her eyes are different from other women. For other people who have experienced so many things, their eyes look a little cloudy. But the witch's eyes are like a baby's, crystal clear and flickering with the lights on the table, making people want to hold it in their hands. Why are you so smudged today? Just tell me if you have something to say. Wanda looked at him strangely. The sunny guy who used to be so carefree, why is he hemming and hawing today? This is the first time I have seen him after being together for so long. Actually, I'm not an ordinary person. I also have superpowers. To be precise, it's magic. Lee Z took a deep breath and went straight to the showdown. At worst, he would hide and start all over again. Anyway, it's just another year of salty fish lying flat again. After speaking, he directly lowered his head slightly, not wanting to see Wanda's reaction. However, after waiting for a long time, the air seemed to be still. The woman on the opposite side didn't make a sound, and he slowly raised his head to realize that Nan Wang was actually dipping bread with butter. Wanda felt the eyes look up, looking at him. I told you, you didn't respond. Lee Z couldn't hold back his face, but the witch didn't respond at all. I'm really. Lee, stop talking. Before he finished speaking, Wanda stretched out her small white hand, covered his mouth directly, and looked around in embarrassment. I was relieved to find that no one was looking. What are you doing? Lee Z looked around in confusion. Well, I believe you, but don't say any more, I'm afraid of dying in vain. Wanda nodded vigorously. She was really worried that for a while Lee Z said something like, I am a superhero, out loud, and then they became the most eye-catching couple in the audience. Thinking of that scene, she felt like she was going to die. But the reason why Lee Z said this must be to comfort herself. She couldn't help feeling warm in her heart, and said softly, Lee, I know you are trying to please me, I am already in a much better mood, but I don't want to die. I'm telling the truth. Lee Z stared blankly at the woman for a long time, then came to his senses and fumbled for a long time to tell the truth, the witch didn't believe it. If she believed it, the system would have given a reminder by now, but there was no sound at all. This is simply an insult, you must show her your hands. Sir, ma'am, this is lobster for two. Oh 90. Just when he was about to show off, the waiter in charge of their table came over with the dishes. Thanks. Smelling the aroma, Wanda couldn't wait to open the small pot lid, and the bursts of scallion-flavored freshness filled the nostrils, which whetted the appetite. Thanks. Li Zi also took the tableware politely, and waited for the waiter to leave. He looked at the witch who was eager to try the lobster again. Wanda, listen to me. Li, will you listen to me about makeup first? When Wanda heard his words, there was distress in her brows. Okay. Although Li Zi couldn't understand why the witch's face showed distress, but he wanted to hear what the witch had to say. I understand your feelings, but Li, you really don't need to care about your own identity. You feel that super abilities or magic will become a gap between the two of us. No matter what, we will never be separated. As Wanda said, she couldn't help stretching out her hand, stroking Li Zi's face distressed. I'm sorry, it's my fault that I have been participating in the Avengers mission recently and didn't care about you. Witch, you, hear the words. Li Zi was stunned when he felt the witch's sudden tenderness, so his witch thought he was worried about this problem. Li, you are already excellent. You are humorous, optimistic, helpful, and always handle everything well. Seeing him in a daze, Wanda stretched out her little hand to hold the minister tightly in distress. Li Zi felt the warmth of the witch's palm, and the corners of his mouth could not help but draw an arc. So don't talk about what happened just now, and eat the lobster first. Wanda let go and stroked his head. Then I couldn't wait to look at the delicious big lobster on the plate. The tender and smooth white meat was naked to seduce myself. The witch licked her lips with her pink tongue, inserted a piece of meat into her mouth, and ate it with relish. But you, Li Zi still wanted to show his hand, but seeing the ghostly gaze from the opposite witch, he put this idea aside for now. Let's talk about it later. Anyway, as I said just now, the witch has already made preparations in her heart. Besides, he didn't come here for chaos force, he just really cared about witches, and he wasn't interested in anything else. It is completely different from that old hag of Agatha. You two, here are the sausage salad and big sausage you ordered. The waiter came over again with the dishes. The younger brother is German, but he speaks fluent English. AHFE, he put down 2 plates of sausages of different styles and turned away. It's ugly. Wanda poked at the 2 large charcoal grilled sausages on the plate, showing disgust between her brows. I think it's not bad. I heard that the Germans make good sausages. Li Zi said slowly. I suddenly remembered a joke about the German team in the World Cup. What a joke? Wanda asked curiously. The Germans brought a full month's worth of sausages to participate in the World Cup, but they were hastily eliminated in the group stage. Out of the group stage of 2 consecutive World Cups. Angry fans and many passers-by tease the German players, stop playing football and go to the roadside to sell sausages. This is how I got to know German sausages. After Li Zi finished eating the lobster on the plate, smelling the delicious seafood, he added helplessly, it's time for those guys from Definitely Wash Off Football to sell seafood. He hasn't been able to see it in his lifetime. Bah, it's because he didn't have the opportunity to see the national football team break into the World Cup before time travel. Hush, Li, this is a German restaurant. Wanda gave him a blank stare when she heard this, because this guy doesn't care about the occasion when he speaks. After speaking, the witch took a bite of the thick sausage, and her eyes lit up. It doesn't look good, but it's delicious. Really, I'll try it too. Li Zi said so, but he didn't take those uncut thick wooden sausages. Instead, insert the salad sausage that has been sliced. Because the picture of the witch eating sausage was so powerful that it reminded him of some strange things, and he couldn't get them out of his mind. What's wrong with you? Wanda looked at him purely with clear eyes and asked in doubt. Li Zi met the witch's eyes that were as clear as a baby's, and looked at her small cherry mouth gnawing on the big roast sausage. Such a discordant but reminiscent picture. Li Zi swallowed involuntarily, and said in a mysterious way, actually, I also have experience in making sausages. Real. When Wanda heard it, her eyes lit up. As expected of my man, he can actually cook sausages. Then I'll try it when I go back tomorrow. She said quickly. Cough cough cough. It's okay. Li Zi couldn't help coughing when he heard that. Why did he have the illusion of coaxing the little girl? Wrong. My wife, what are you afraid of? Don't be dazed, eat quickly or it will get cold. Wanda didn't notice the difference. She ate until her mouth was full of oil stains. But she is very gluttonous and doesn't eat much. After eating the sausage, he was basically full. He sat on the chair with a satisfied face, admiring the night view of the bustling city outside. In particular, a mountain towering straight into the sky stands between the cities, adding fantasy to the city. Do you think the mayor will dig up the mountain? Wanda said. Maybe there is this idea, but the mountain is so high, he probably has no power. Lizzie reached out and wiped the grease stains around her mouth with a paper towel, and looked up at the majestic mountains outside together, with some emotion in his eyes. Sure enough, as expected of me, I can create such a majestic mountain with a wave of my hand, handsome. It seems to be the case. Wanda nodded. Unless the mountain is a threat, no one wants to spend money on it, and the mountain has gone viral on Instagram. Lizzie explained. Because it is a mountain made by the shadow, many netizens call it the Black Shadow Mountain. In the future, it is estimated that many people will come here to travel and watch, and then it will drive a wave of economy. Human beings have always been weird creatures. Although they are just seemingly useless things, they can attract countless people to watch. Yeah, I got it. The witch nodded along with the rhythm of his speech, with a half-understanding look. Are you full? It's getting late, it's time to go back. Lizzie rubbed her head and asked. The two went downstairs, and since the hotel was nearby, they walked back on foot, digesting along the way, and feeling the German street culture by the way. Same as other big football nations. On the way back, I often saw people playing football on the street. Even if there was no court, I could still see a few children playing the rim game in football. Boom. While Lizzie and Wanda were waiting for the traffic lights on the side of the road, a football rolled over under their feet, and it was a mistake made by a few children in the distance when they were grabbing the lap. Hey, kick me back. Among them, the little boy stood not far away and shouted. Hiddle, he is a Chinese person who can't understand, we shouldn't go there by ourselves. The other boy spoke German, but he meant something. Lee, they underestimated you. Wanda laughed. Wanda, do you understand German? Lizzie can also understand German, and he taught himself by creating magic before, but he didn't care about what the children said, and he was more concerned that the witch could do it. When I was a child, I met a German friend on the Stowaway's boat, and I learned a little fur from her when I got along with her. Recalls Wanda. You're a genius. Lizzie seems to have discovered that witches actually have abilities in many other aspects besides magic. Is talking. The boy had already trotted over, and was just about to pick up the ball when a voice stopped him. Hey, let me teach you how to kick. It's Lizzie. He didn't bother to pay attention to a group of brats, but they all came forward to provoke him. How could he show weakness? Give the Chinese people a name up and down. It's not that China doesn't know how to play football. Think about it, there are so many geniuses in Europe with only 700 to 800 million people. There are more than 1 billion people in my great China, how could there not be 11 people? It's just that the genius has been buried. Coming. Narration. Wanda smiled helplessly, she knew this guy would not leave easily. Although a bit naive, she didn't feel bored, instead she leaned on the telephone pole and looked at him expectantly. You can. Doubts were written on the boy's face. Few Chinese people can play football. When they went to the World Cup and saw yellow-skinned people playing football, many people thought they were islanders. Is he mistaken? This is an islander. The young man doesn't know. If Lizzie knows his inner thoughts, he will definitely be strangled by the neck and yelled, talk carefully, why are you insulting people all of a sudden? Definitely. Lizzie is confident. He was also the leader of the school team back then. If it weren't for the exam, I don't know what it would have become. If you can kick the ball to the opposite trash can, you win. The boy pointed to a trash can across the road and said. No problem. As Lizzie said, he picked up the ball on the ground and put it at his feet. Several friends of the boy ran over, and the children sat on the steps of a shop full of anticipation. I want to see what this Chinese man is going to do. The boy stood behind Lizzie. He didn't believe that the big brother in front of him could kick the ball in. Although this road is about 10 meters wide, it is almost the distance from the penalty area to the goal, and it is not very far. But the difficulty lies in kicking the ball into the trash can of file size at the mouth of the basin. Even professional football players, very few people can do it all at once. Look, I'll teach you once. Lizzie didn't make any extra moves, and took a few good steps back. Then he ran over with a few strides, kicked the ball directly below the ball lightly, and then the ball flew upwards. Under the radiance of orange street lamps, the ball drew a perfect arc in midair, drawing a full moon scimitar. Whoosh! Bang! Next second, the ball fell steadily into the trash can, and when it fell, it touched the lid of the trash can, and brought the lid to cover it together. Oh shit! China's version of Beckham. Seeing this, several children sitting on the steps couldn't help but stood up and raised their arms high and exclaimed. For them, the coolest thing in the world is to kick a wonderful world wave goal. The boy couldn't help exclaiming when he saw this scene, his mouth was so wide open that he could stuff an egg. Kid, study hard. Lizzie patted the boy on the shoulder like an old man. Wanda next to him was also stunned. She doesn't watch the ball, but she can see how powerful the ball is. Green light is gone. At this time, Lizzie glanced at the traffic light, and found that it was already green, pulled Wanda and walked across the road, leaving behind a shocked teenager. When a few children wanted to chase, they found that the road was blocked by a car at a red light. They felt a little sorry, and let a great God go. Not for a while. In the hotel corridor, I thought you'd teach him a few more words. Wanda couldn't help laughing when she remembered what happened just now. It's just a child, it's not necessary, and the ball just now is the best lesson. Lizzie replied, maybe he will plant a dream of becoming a football superstar in his heart. Wanda is thoughtful, one thing may really affect a person's life. At this time, a hand beside her has already reached out and hugged her waist. Don't think about it, it's not too late, I think. Lee, no, but didn't you say that you would reward me? Go back to Zijing Town tomorrow and let's talk about it, the clothes should arrive tomorrow. Good. Chapter 50. The next afternoon. New York International Airport. On weekends, the airport is full of people, and all kinds of people pass through the security gate. In a fast-paced city, not many people will slow down. On the bus stop sign outside the gate, two figures, one tall and one short, each pulling a suitcase, stood under the sun visor and waited for the bus. Go out to save the world, go round and come back. Looking at the bustling city, Lizzie stretched his body and took a deep breath. Obviously only went out for 3 days, but I always feel that it has been a long time, and what happened in these 3 days is too much. That's not saving the world, it's all a hoax. Wanda heard this and thought of the so-called end of the world mission that she participated in, and it turned out to be all a drama. That's not to blame, it's the black marinated egg. Lizzie comforted with a smile. Besides, stopping the mystery man is also a memorable thing. If he doesn't stop him, I can't imagine how many people will be deceived in the future. Hey, Mysterio is right, most people are only willing to believe appearances, and a few people care about the truth. Wanda sighed deeply. After going through these 3 days, she will not trust anyone easily in the future. No one is wrong, people just want to believe what they see. Lizzie thought to himself, what can ordinary people do in this age of chaos? You can only sit in front of the TV and watch the daily news, who can verify whether it is true or not. The number 11 bus has arrived. At this moment, a bus stopped in front of him, and Wanda dragged him onto the bus. Since there were not many people taking the bus at this point, there were still many empty seats on the bus. The two got in the car, and Lizzie sat down by the window. He is not used to riding in a bus and always gets motion sickness, so he usually sits by the window. The scenery outside the window can relieve the feeling of motion sickness. The destination of the bus is the train station. Lizzie and Wanda plan to take the train back to Westview Town. The train is much faster than the car. The car looks like it's going through Brooklyn. Wanda next to her raised her head, looked at the road map and said, "Well, what's the matter?" Lizzie wondered. "Nothing, just thinking of an old friend." Wanda said slowly, "Captain America." Lizzie guessed that it must be one of the big three without thinking too much. Steve Rogers. In the previous world, there was a controversial Chaoying. Some people thought he was a villain with double standards, while others thought he was democratic, had a big picture, and always treated things with justice. In any case, Captain America is indeed one of the big three and one of the most indispensable souls. He's a nice guy, and I wish you two could meet, but he's gone now. Wanda is talking. She froze suddenly, frowning and looking towards the front of the army. Wanda. Li Zi noticed her gaze, and then felt a sense of crisis. Before he could sound a warning to the driver. Next second. Bang. When the bus was approaching the intersection, a black commercial van driving at high speed suddenly rushed out from the road on the right. Fact. The uncle driver's face changed drastically when he saw this, and he turned the steering wheel violently while cursing. The entire car tilted instantly, and the cabin flicked sharply as the steering wheel turned, and the people in the car grabbed the nearest object to stabilize their bodies. Even if the driver reacted quickly, the front of the car still rubbed against the van, shook violently a few times, and the sun hit the sidewalk guardrail. Kai. Bursts of black smoke rose from the front of the car, and all the passengers sat in their chairs in shock. Wardfa, how did you drive the car? You really want to die. The uncle driver cursed, took off his seatbelt and was about to get out of the car to teach the owner of the van. Bang. However, I didn't expect a group of robbers with guns and masks to get out of the car first. The big man in the head immediately pointed his gun at the driver. If you don't want to die, open the door. The big man's voice was not loud, but it was as cold as the muzzle of the gun in his hand. No one can refuse. It's over. This damn country has human troops in urban areas. A bunch of lunatics, they will definitely not let anyone go. Looking at a group of desperados outside, the passengers in the car were suddenly shrouded in fear, and sat on the chairs with pale faces. You seem to have the ability to attract criminals. But Li Zi was not nervous, he whispered into Wanda's ear with a smile. Nonsense, every time we meet a gangster, we can always stay together, it's not sure who attracts us. Wanda stuck out her pink tongue at him, and then looked helplessly at the group of desperados outside the car, finally ending the matter of the mysterious guest. As a result, he was hijacked as soon as he got off the plane. This country is America, but a group of desperados hijacking a car on the street is also a small probability event, and she can actually run into it. Is it true that what Li Zi said, she has the attribute of attracting criminals? Don't shoot, I'll open the door. At this moment, the uncle driver had already opened the door, and he was trembling on the steering wheel with his head in his hands. You made the right choice, a smart decision. The leader, the big man, walked into the car with a gun in his hand, and his fierce eyes swept over the panicked passengers, with jokes in his eyes. He yelled, "Guys, please cooperate with us, no one will be hurt." As soon as the boss finished speaking, he noticed the seat behind him. A woman in a scarlet windbreaker stood up, and the passengers around her noticed her, especially her beautiful fair face, which was extremely eye-catching. Little beauty, I know that you have an advantage in some aspects, but the gun in my hand has no eyes, please sit down obediently. When the leader saw Wanda, his eyes straightened instantly, and he kept looking at the witch's mature and charming figure, and the face under the mask gradually became obscene. Court death. In the back seat, Li Zi was still waiting for his own witch to show her magic, but saw the greed in the eyes of the kidnapper leader unscrupulous lightning. His mood was suddenly cold, and there was a chill in his eyes. Boy, pay attention to your eyes, even if she is your girlfriend, you have to be obedient to me. The younger brother who got into the car just happened to see Li Zi's fierce gaze, and he cut his neck as he spoke, threatening, otherwise, huh. But that's not all. His face suddenly became stiff, and his breathing became rapid, as if there was an invisible hand, he strangled his neck tightly, unable to breathe. Third, the leader turned his head when he heard the movement, and saw that the younger brother's neck was wrapped in scarlet light. Looking back at Wanda again, he bumped into a pair of icy eyes glowing scarlet, and suddenly he felt a chill from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. The hand that gripped the gun tightly could not move even a little bit. You don't deserve to live in this world. Wanda's tone was extremely cold, especially when she thought of Li Zi being threatened just now. While speaking, the entire compartment was covered in cold air, and the temperature dropped sharply. Boss, what's the matter? At this time, a younger brother who didn't know why got into the car. Shoot, the leader hurriedly shouted. Boom, unrepentant. With a wave of her hand, Wanda directly threw the leader out of the window. With a flick of the other fingertip, the other two fell out of the car instantly under a huge impact. What happened? The three people who were carrying goods in the van outside the car rushed over when they heard the movement, and saw that they all fell to the ground. And at the front door of the bus, a figure glowing scarlet came out. Without waiting for a few people to react, they only felt their eyes turn red, and then they lost control of their bodies and threw them backwards, falling to the wall abruptly and feeling tearing pain all over their bodies. Ahem. On the opposite road, the leader who was thrown out just now stood up staggeringly, and saw that all the younger brothers fell to the ground, with an extremely gloomy expression. Damn bitch. He shook his splitting head, and locked on to the scarlet figure whose back was facing him. Immediately, he took out a special lightning grenade from his arms, pressed the start button, and the grenade charged instantly. Buzz. This grenade from the start group has a small explosion range, but the lightning it bursts out is 1,000 volts of electricity. Far superior to high-voltage cables. However, just as the leader was about to throw the grenade out, a black hand behind him firmly grasped his hand holding the grenade tightly. Hiss. The leader turned his head to look, and his heart suddenly tightened. I saw a few figures in black clothes standing behind me like black shadows, looking at him with cold eyes. Open. The leader struggled, trying to drop the grenade. But those men in black stared at him coldly, not moving at all. Boom. Next second, the moment the grenade exploded, thousands of volts of lightning gushed out and spread to the leader's body. Ah! He screamed in pain, and just before his eyes went dark, he suddenly saw the Oriental man who was leaning against the window on the back seat of the bus staring at him. Wanda heard the heart-piercing screams, and turned around to see several people in ancient black clothes, surrounding a charred corpse. Seeing her, the man in black turned around and walked into the shadow of the street corner, blending with the shadow and disappearing. Another member of the shadow organization, she said in surprise. Witch, are you all right? At this time Lizzie got out of the car, looked around at the robbers lying on the ground, stepped forward and pinched the witch's tender cheek. Witch, you are amazing. They are just a few ordinary people, they can't hurt me. As she spoke, Wanda thought of the men in black she saw just now. Did you see those men in black just now? They seemed to be members of the Black Shadow organization. She was a little confused, because the person in the ancient black clothes just now looked different from the previous members of the organization. This time it was a few tall, thin guys with sharp feet. I see, it seems to be. Lizzie touched his nose guiltily, but those were actually members of the Shadow Corps. The boss insulted Wanda, and he couldn't help but let the Sombra do it. He admits it might be a bit naive, but as a man he can't stand his own woman being insulted and teased. The scope of activities of the Sombra organization is very large, and there are many types. Wanda next to him didn't see anything strange in him, but frowned and began to reason seriously. The Sombra organization may be in a different area, with different types of troops. The ones I met in Venice and Westview Town before were all different. One class. Which, your analysis makes sense. Lizzie patted his head. Why didn't he expect to have such an explanation? 0. Seeking flowers. A truly powerful organization is to cover the whole world. Different regions, and arms can naturally be different. As long as the black shadows don't appear at the same time, it's hard for anyone to suspect him. No, he admitted it himself yesterday. The witch didn't believe it either. Drop. At this moment, the police car finally arrived at the scene, and there were onlookers nearby who called the police. Definitely the police had already been chasing this group of people before. It's just that they temporarily escaped the pursuit, and then tried to hijack a carload of hostages and escape from the city as a cover. Didn't expect to meet Wanda. In the end, because Wanda has the identity of an Avenger, the police simply asked a few questions and did not make a record. So the two quickly headed to the train station and caught the train to the vicinity of Westview Town. Taking the train together is a good experience for couples. There are many things you can do in the scenery along the way and in the private box. But Lizzie and Wanda didn't do anything excessive. At the moment the witch is sleeping on the table, and it's easy to feel tired after a day of driving. Wanda didn't wake up in a daze until she almost reached the terminal. Lee, what are you doing? Wanda stretched her waist and glanced at Lizzie who was flipping through her phone. I'm looking to see when those clothes arrive. Lizzie replied unabashedly. Where are the clothes? How can they arrive so fast? We just bought them yesterday. Seeing that this guy has been thinking about those revealing clothes, Wanda couldn't help but blushed, gritted her teeth and said. Then my reward is gone again. Lizzie remembered what the witch said before going to bed yesterday, and immediately hugged her and questioned her. You let go first. Wanda struggled speechlessly. Don't let go. Feeling the soft woman in his arms, Lizzie was reluctant to let go, why don't we go to the store and buy a few? They may also be sold on the street. What are you talking about? Why would someone sell this kind of thing on the street? Even if there was, I wouldn't buy it. Wanda was ashamed and angry. She was thin-skinned and thought of going offline to buy, and with Lizzie's personality, she would probably buy a lot at once. Don't even think about knowing what people around you think of them, just stay where you are. Who says no? Some people like to go to the woods to play games. Lizzie said seriously. What game? When Wanda heard something new, she had never heard of it before, and suddenly became interested and curious. Ahem, cough, nothing. Lizzie coughed a few times in embarrassment. I don't know why he didn't say such things casually before, but recently after getting along with the witch, he always blurted out. He swears he never thought of doing such a thing. It's definitely not a good thing. Wanda noticed his expression and pursed her lips. Everyone, you are about to arrive in Zijing Town, please get off in an orderly manner. At this time, a reminder came from the train radio, and then the train gradually slowed down, and the scenery outside the window became familiar. Finally reached. Lizzie looked at the familiar scene, opened the window and took a deep breath of fresh air. Went out for a few laps and finally came back. The train stopped. Let's go, I'm going back to take a shower, I'm so dirty. Narration. Wanda can't wait to pull him out of the car. The two returned to the community apartment in a short time by taxi. The corridor on the top floor. Lee, see me later and I'm going to sleep after taking a shower. Wanda opened the door with tiredness on her face, not forgetting to turn her head and say something to Lizzie. Aren't you coming to live with me? The bed in my room is quite big. Lizzie has gotten used to falling asleep with the witch's embrace these days, so she doesn't want to lie alone in the cold bedroom tonight. Wanda pretended to be undecided about hesitation, but seeing Lizzie across the way who looked like a widow who was alone in the vacant room, she couldn't help laughing. Okay, I'll move in later, I'll take a shower first. Okay. Seeing that the witch agreed, Lizzie was in a good mood. It just so happened that he took advantage of this time to do something. Wait until Wanda enters the house. After packing up his luggage, he went to Agatha's room, looked around the cold living room, and said to himself, Agatha, where did you put the Book of Darkness? The words fell. Lizzie closed his eyes slightly, his body exuded golden light and gathered magic runes. Next second, whoosh, a hole appeared on the blank wall in front of him. He opened his eyes and saw the familiar cave, and walked in without any hesitation. In the original book, Agatha hid the Book of Darkness in an underground cave. After walking in, as expected, on an altar in the cave, there is a magic book that exudes black aura. The black aura seems to contain evil spirits, and sometimes there are bursts of roars. This is the Book of Darkness. It comes from the black magic spell written by the ancient god Sithorn and recorded in the book. If you understand it thoroughly, you can become a godlike existence in all dimensions. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.